Hello everybody, welcome to Maggie Books. If you're new, well, it's a pleasure to have you, and it's a pleasure to talk about books like always. So today I'm doing something very different, which is talking about non-fiction books, and I will talk more specifically about my favorite books. I've read a few non-fiction, but I didn't like all of them, so I'll just pick up the best ones I've read. I don't have all of them with me today, and because of that I'm not going to show you the covers. I'm just going to put them next to me, and that way you can just keep seeing the image of it, so you can just, know what it is and have time to read the title and see properly the picture on it. The reason for this is because I've been reading a lot of young adult fiction, and I just think I should continue to read some non-fiction as well, because that's something I really like to do. So let's begin. It will be 5 books that were my favourites. And as the first one, The History of Everything by Bill Bryson. This book was definitely the book that made me want to read more non-fiction. It goes through all the history of us and the planet. So it starts with the development of our planet and talks about astrophysics. It goes through all of these sciences that explain the world and the things we see right now, but in a really, really funny way. Bill Bryson has a really good narrative way of explaining things. He's really mind-focused on what it's important for you to know. It doesn't go through really hardcore science. There's none of that. Everything is super simple for everybody to understand, and it just goes from the start till today. It talks a lot about dinosaurs and what do we still have about of dinosaurs, what do we know about dinosaurs, in a really brief way, in a really fun way, but it is a really amazing introduction for all of the sciences. And yeah, this book is just good for everybody. I recommend it like highly. Next one I've read and really enjoyed was The Brain by David Eagleman. All of his knowledge in the book is so clear. You can see that he's a really good scientist. He really understands the brain, and it does a really good job describing to you what our brain does, how does it work in different situations, from the moment we're babies till the moment we are grown-ups. He also talks about crime and how our brain functions for those people that commit crimes, for psychopaths and other kinds of really weird mental mental states and mental problems, I would call it. And it goes through a bit of hard science as well. It explains to you how it really works. It shows you pictures for you to understand, but the way he explains is just, for me, that I've never read anything about the brain before. It was super simple to just picture it, and it's really mind-blowing in some way, and eye-opening too, because you start seeing things in a different way and you start understanding your brain a lot better. So I think this book is really good for you if you're interested to know a little bit about our brain and how it works, and if you're just looking for a fun and easy read, I recommend this one. We have This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. Adam Kay was a junior doctor, and he does kind of a diary explanatory book about his life as a doctor. This is such a funny ride. I've never read anything about doctors or hospitals and the situations that can go inside of a hospital, and I was never really interested in it, but this book was massively marketed everywhere, every bookshop I went. This book was there, it was displayed everywhere, and little stories about what's going on in the book was written next to the book, and I just thought, well, this seems interesting, I'll give it a try. And it's so funny. I don't know anybody that have read this book and didn't like it. I've actually, when I was reading it, I spent a few hours in Waterstones reading it in the coffee shop, and there was people reading it as well there. And that creates a kind of really funny situation where you're reading and the other person is reading, and then you comment and you see where that person is, and it's just that kind of book that gives you so much to talk about. Like, you cannot even shut up about it. There's so many little tiny things that you can discuss with your friends, and it's a really good book for a group read, or even for you to read and then recommend, because it's so funny to talk about it. And yeah, he goes through all of these situations, especially bad ones, of course, because that's what makes you interested, about he being a doctor at NHS, which is the health system here in London and the UK. And it just makes you really understand what's going on inside, what kind of situations that can happen. And yeah, I will not talk about any story, because I would think that would be a spoiler for you, because that's the fun of it, is just going through it and seeing what kind of stories you can actually read, and that's fun. But everything is quite gruesome, and it's really raw and truthful, so I would recommend this one as a really fun and a read that will stuck to you definitely. The Unexpected Truth About Animals by Lucy Cook. So Lucy is a zoologist, and she studies animals of all kinds, but she has these few animals that she listed it to do this book as the animals that she thought were more curious to know about. And she talks about eels, hyenas, bats, moose, pandas, about chimpanzees, and you just know so much about these animals, and you actually start seeing them in a different way. And that's the whole point of reading also these non-fiction books, that you know things you would never learn in another way. So as for example, we have the eels, which is an animal that you never think about. It's an animal that you actually eat in my country, so you know it pretty well, but here in the UK nobody even talks about it. But it's a really it has a really crazy story, as when people starting learning about the eel and studying the eel, there was Sigmund Freud, for example, as the first person to be completely obsessed to know where are the testicles of the eel. And you think, why would somebody be so completely interested in this kind of themes? But he was, and is this father of psychoanalysis that everybody knows. And you know this other side of him, which is wanting to know where are the testicles of the eel. And they do loads of experiments and you know, a lot of curiosities like this in this book, and it's so fun. It's funny as well, she is a funny person, which makes it a lot more, well, relatable, and it makes it fun to read, which is always important for me. You're not reading non-fiction and just reading facts, and that's boring, you know, that makes it boring. But no, this kind of books, they are not boring at all, and that's the main reason I recommend them so much. For example, she talks about moose and how those animals are drunk sometimes because of the kind of food they ate, and there's all of these funny stories about a moose and their lives. There's also chimpanzees and this whole story about them mauling people and being aggressive, and this is amazing. I loved reading about animals. This was the kind of book that I've picked up without knowing anything about it. at the bookshop, and I was reading through it as the first pages and I couldn't stop, so I bought it, and it was one of my favorite non-fiction reads. The last book I'm going to talk about is The Brief Answers to the Big Questions by Stephen Hawking. And this book is just one of those books, like the brief history of everything, where there's all of these really interesting themes. In this case it's about science and about discovery of planets and about all of these curiosities about the universe, like black holes, how does our future look like, are we going to go to other planets to live, is this an option, are there aliens, all of these really weird questions we have and ask ourselves frequently. He talks about them in a really easy way for you to understand. There's no hardcore science. I'm always saying this because I'm the complete dumb person when it comes to hardcore science. I don't understand it. I just don't know much about it, and I love science so much that I just want books that make me understand it, and this is one of them. It makes me understand things quite clearly, and it makes me interested in them. Some questions make you even wanting to know more questions, and Stephen Hawking is a great person, he's a great writer, and I loved it in this way. Is also funny sometimes, which is amazing, and I became loving him, loving this book, and wanting to read more of his books, which are quite popular by the way, but I haven't read them, only this one. But yeah, I recommend it. This was a really different video I decided to do for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I influence you, inspire you to read non-fiction, because it is good. It does have really good, interesting things. If you want to read, like, imagine you're a person that likes nature. You have so much. Have so much in that area. You can go to a bookstore and just spend a bit of time there and search about those things you like. There's so many books about so many little specific things, and I think this is super interesting, and I really loved making videos like this, and I would love to know if you like them as well, if this is helpful, if you want to read non-fiction too. Non-fiction month is coming in November, and we are making a marathon as well. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to read as much non-fiction as I can, and I really recommend you to try as well. If you never read non-fiction, well, just try and read one book, and that's really good. I'm proud of you if you do that. At least do one, at least one, because I know booktube is really around young adult and fantasy and fiction mainly, right? And I just want it to be also about non-fiction, and I want to see more videos about these themes, these areas, these different things, and I think they're really important to know about. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe, stay with me, tell me in the comments if you liked any of these books, if you want to read any, if you have any recommendations. I would love to hear recommendations, because I don't know that many books in this broad non-fiction area, and I need to know more. So yeah, if you have any of your favorite non-fiction books, let me know in the comments. I'll be reading them and going through them. So yes, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!